This short lesson is going to examine the correct order of operations in mathematics. In other words, if you encounter a problem where you have to decide between, say, multiplication and subtraction, which one do you do first? Well, the order of operations tells you which one you should do first, and that's what we're going to examine. We're going to start by illustrating what could go wrong through a word problem. So I've pulled actually a question from the Chapter 1 quiz that we're going to examine. So say there are 20 fasteners in each front door of a car and 16 fasteners in each rear door. How many fasteners are there? Well, we have 20 plus 20 in each front door, and then we have 16 plus 16 in each rear door. So we have 40 coming from the front, 32 from the back, for a total of 40 plus 32 equals 72 fasteners. Alright, so we arrived at the correct answer. But let's say we wrote it a little differently using multiplication. So in other words, instead of writing 20 plus 20, let's say we said, well, I have 20 in each front door, and I'm going to multiply that by 2 for the 2 doors that I have in the front. Well, 20 times 2 is a correct way of, also correct way to write the setup of this, beginning of this problem. And note that we're going to use a dot for multiplication from now on. The book uses an X for a while, but most of you are going to go on to algebra and beyond, and we want to start using a dot because that's what you're going to encounter later on. So 20 times 2. And then in the rear we have 16 times 2 for both rear doors. And we are going to add those together to get our answer. Well, so far so good. 20 times 2 is 40. And now we have 40 plus 16 times 2. And then let's say we weren't really concentrating perhaps on the problem, and we just continued to move from left to right, which might seem natural because that's how we read. So we'll just keep moving from left to right. So now I'm going to do 40 plus 16 is 56. And then we still have our times 2. And 56 times 2 equals 112. But oops, we know the answer is 72, and here we got 112. So that means something went wrong along the way. We did something out of order. So let's examine the correct order. Let's start from the bottom. There are 4 levels, and we'll start from the lowest level, which is addition and subtraction. Right? Because that's kind of how math started. In very, very historic times, the first thing human beings started to do was count and do simple addition using their fingers. So the bottom rung is adding and subtracting. Adding and subtracting we consider to be tied or on the same level because subtraction undoes addition. In other words, if you have 5 plus 3 makes 8, well, if you then take that 3 away, subtract that 3, you're going to go back down to 5 where you started. Right? So these are of the same level, so when they're of the same level, we do them from left to right. So whichever you encounter first from left to right is how we proceed. And we're going to see some examples. The third level is multiplication and division. Now, this is how mathematics emerged over time, people got sick of writing 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 if they needed to, so instead they wrote 2 times 5. So, and again, division undoes multiplication. 6 times 2 is 12, but then if you do 12 divided by 2, you're going to get back to 6. So these are tied as well, so we do them from left to right, but multiplication and division are of a higher rank than addition and subtraction. The second level is exponents, which is a way of writing repeated multiplication. Right? So an example would be people got tired of writing 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So instead, they started to use exponents to show how many times you were multiplying a particular number. So here is the exponent multiplying 2 4 times, so we write 2 to the 4th power. So exponents is the second level, and then the highest level, the thing you should do first, grouping symbols. So parentheses or brackets or what we call braces. And this is just denoting, okay, maybe some instances there is a particular time where maybe I want you to do the addition before the multiplication, and to show you that, I'm going to put, say, the addition inside parentheses to tell you to do that first before you would do multiplication. Right? Now, just to address something, some of you have maybe seen a famous acronym called PEMDAS. Which means parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. I stay away from that because it makes it seem like multiplication is above division, and it makes it seem like addition is above subtraction, but really they're on the same level. So that's why I don't like to use that. Right? So really, just there are 4 levels, and just, if you're unsure, picture how you think mathematics emerged through time. Started with basic addition, then grew to multiplication, then exponents, and then we eventually decided with grouping symbols that lastly there may be a time when we want to do something in a slightly different order. Okay? So let's look at 3 examples. Do is I'm going to write them off to the side here. So 1, highest order is grouping, exponents, multiplication and division from L to R, and addition, subtraction from left to right. Okay, so let's look at 3 examples. So we have 20 minus 5 times 2. So we have to decide between subtraction and multiplication. I'll give you a second to think about that. Okay, well, we have a subtraction and multiplication. The multiplication is of a higher order than the subtraction, so we do the multiplication first. So 5 times 2 is 10. So now we have 20 minus 10, and 20 minus 10 is 10. So our correct answer is 10. Now notice if we hadn't applied the correct order, if we had done 20 minus 5, we would have gotten 15, and then 15 times 2 is 30, So we definitely would have gotten an incorrect answer. So it does matter. Let's look at two more examples. Now we have 2 to the second power times 6 divided by 2. Well, let's go over to our order here. Do we have any grouping symbols? No. Do we have any exponents? Yes, we do in this case. We have 2 to the second power, so we're going to do that. That's 4. So now we're left with 4 times 6 divided by 2. Well, we have a multiplication and a division. They're of the same rank, so this means we do them from left to right. So that means what comes first from left to right is the multiplication. So 4 times 6 is 24. So we're left with 24 divided by 2, and that equals 12. That's our correct answer there. Okay. So let me do one more pretty extensive one from the My Math Lab homework. I need to borrow my paper here to write all this out. So we have 4 times 19 plus, here we have a brace. 88 divided by, open bracket, 12 minus 5 plus 3 in parentheses, and then close the bracket and close the brace. So notice we have actually 3 different grouping symbols: braces, brackets, and parentheses. So we do the grouping symbols first, and how do we determine which one to do first? We start with the innermost grouping symbol. In this case, that is the 5 plus 3. So what we have is 5 plus 3 is 8. So we now have 12 minus 8 in brackets. Now the brackets are inside the braces, so we move to the brackets next. 12 minus 8 is 4. So now the brackets are gone. Now the only grouping symbol we have left is the brace. 88 divided by 4, that's 22. So now we are left with 4 times 19 plus 22. And we have to decide between multiplication and addition. Well, multiplication is of a higher rank. So what we have is 4 times 19, which is 76, plus our 22. And lastly, 76 plus 22 equals 98. That is our final answer after all those different calculations and applying the correct order. So that concludes this short lesson.